Hi, this is Alex from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book and record to play for you. Today's book is Tom and Jerry, Astro Cat and Mouse, requested by one of my describers, Asher the Elder, for 1984. So let's get started.
Hi, boys and girls. I'm Barney the Book Bear, the bear on Peter Pan Talking Books. When you hear this sound, turn the page. Okay? Ready? Here we go.
Tom and Jerry, Astrocat and Mouse. It was a day like every other day at the home of Tom and Jerry. Tom was chasing Jerry, and Jerry was chasing Tom. Back and forth they ran until the lady of the house lost her temper. Out came the broom, and with one good whack, Tom and Jerry were sent flying into the front yard.
Now get out and stay out, you two. Don't you ever get tired of chasing each other?
The door slammed on our two friends. They sat on the grass looking at each other and thinking about what the lady had just said. Let's face it, that's all they did do most of the time, and it didn't seem to be as much fun as it used to be. Things were getting pretty boring. As they were sitting, someone turned on the radio, and the announcer's voice caught Tom's attention.
NASA has announced today plans for the next space launch. In addition to the astronauts and scientists aboard this flight, there will be an opportunity to send a specially trained cat into space to test the reactions of an animal in spaceflight. This will be the first time such a program will be undertaken, and the search is underway to find the right cat for the job.
Talk about timing. Tom's ears stood at attention as he listened to every word of the broadcast. By the time it was over, he was standing at attention too. Gone was that sloppy and lazy cat who spent all his time on the living room rug or chasing his mouse companion around the house. Before our very eyes, there stood Tom the astrocat, ready to volunteer to help his country's space program. But now he had to get down to the Space Center and show them he could do the job. A quick goodbye to his old pal Jerry, and Tom was on his way to volunteer. When Tom arrived at the Space Center, there was a long line of other cat volunteers. They were all the colors of the cat rainbow. There were long-haired cats and short-haired cats and long-tailed cats and no-tailed cats. There were girl cats and boy cats, big cats and small cats. But Tom caught the eye of the doctor, who checked him out.
I think you're a fine specimen of a cat, Tom, and I think you would make a good astrocat. I shall stamp recommended on your application. Next, you will have to go through some physical tests down the hallway.
Fortunately, Tom was in great physical shape. After all, Jerry had been chasing him around for years, and he'd been chasing Jerry around.
Now, let's see how fast you can run up and down that ladder, Tom, and then we'll test your heartbeat. Looks like you're going to pass this test with flying colors, Tom. I've never seen a cat in such good physical shape as you.
Tom smiled and saluted the doctor. He was really getting into this astronaut role. Yes, the doctors were all very impressed. Just one more hurdle remained. A tall man in a uniform with a badge that read Security Officer called Tom into his office.
Tom, you have passed every test we have given you so far, and it looks like you have a very good chance to be our astrocat. But we must run a security check on you to make sure that you have a clean record. We can't have a criminal cat flying for our country now, can we? Hold out your paw and place it on this ink pad, and then on this piece of paper. We're sending these paw prints to the FBCI, Federal Bureau of Cat Identification, to check you out. If you're clean, I think you'll be our cat.
Tom got pretty nervous at the thought of being checked out by the FBCI, but he was pretty sure they wouldn't turn up any black marks in his past. After all, he had never been picked up by the cat warden. Time passed slowly. And then the security officer came back to the room.
Tom, I have the news you've been waiting for. Your FBCI check came back clean, and the doctors say that you're our man. Our cat. You will be specially trained as our first cat astronaut and have the honor and privilege to serve your country in a way that no other cat has ever had.
Tears came to Tom's eyes. He was a very proud and happy cat. But now the hard work really began. Tom Tom's training was rough. He ran, he lifted weights, he was fitted for a special spacesuit and tossed around at zero gravity so he would learn how it would feel to be in space. Days turned into weeks of hard work. Meanwhile, back at home, Jerry was one heartbroken mouse. It seemed that with Tom gone, there was no fun left at all in the world. All those times that Tom used to chase him and play tricks on him, oh, how he wished those days were back again. The lady of the house noticed how blue and unhappy Jerry was.
Poor Jerry. He really does miss Tom. I guess I'll turn on the news and maybe he'll catch a glimpse of Tom and feel better.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The top story of the night is the upcoming launch of this country's latest space vehicle. The star of this flight looks like it's going to be Tom, the astrocat. After all, we've had men and women in space before, and even a monkey or two, but never a fully trained astrocat. In just a few days, the countdown will begin for the launching of this mission, which will place the world's first cat astronaut in space.
Sitting and watching the news about Tom only made Jerry feel sadder and sadder. Tom was so famous now, he probably would never come back to live with Jerry. He'd have to go down into space.
Today is the day, ladies and gentlemen, that our country will blast off into space. Jerry and he in a big business, and now for Tom. Yes, he certainly has caught the public's fancy, this freshly made spacesuit. And now, here they are. The members of the crew are walking towards the spacecraft. And yes, there's Tom. A tremendous roar fills up from the crowd here at the launch site. Yes, clearly Tom is the public's favorite.
Among the crowd of thousands there to see the space launch was Jerry, the little mouse, and Tom's oldest friend. As Tom walked by, Jerry couldn't believe his eyes at how splendid his friend looked in his spacesuit. Before he knew what was happening, Jerry found himself running as fast as he could to catch up with Tom. Just as he got to the door of the spacecraft, Tom looked down and saw his old friend, scooped him up into the pocket of his spacesuit, and continued boarding. Within minutes, the door to the craft swung shut and...
We're coming to the final 10 seconds to blast off. Count with us. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off. Ladies and gentlemen, a perfect launch for this fascinating mission. We certainly hope that our men and women in space and our brave little astrocats fulfill their space tasks without problems and return to us here on Earth, safe and sound.
Snug in his chair aboard the spacecraft, Tom was delighted to see his old playmate Jerry. He had missed all the games they used to play. He and Jerry laughed very quietly to think of what a surprise it would be if anyone found out that an unexpected visitor was on board the spacecraft. As long as Jerry remained hidden in Tom's pocket, no one would ever know. The days and nights in space were busy for the entire crew of the spacecraft, including Tom. Each had his job to do, and because they were trained so well, they performed them well. Finally, on the last day of the mission, Tom was scheduled to take a spacewalk. He got his special helmet in place and put on his supply of oxygen. He checked the special cord, which would connect him to the ship and enable him to return safely. Finally, the hatch opened, and Tom was floating freely in space. After several minutes, it was time for Tom to return to the spaceship. As he started to pull on the cord that connected him back to the ship, he saw that the cord had snagged on a rough plate on the outside of the ship. If he couldn't follow the cord to get to the door of the craft, he would have to remain outside the spacecraft, and that meant certain death. Tom tried and tried to get the cord loose, but as he was weightless, he could not manage. None of the astronauts inside the ship could help, as they were too large for this experiment. Tom felt the chill of fear. All of a sudden, Jerry popped his head out of Tom's spacesuit pocket. He looked at the fear on Tom's face and at the snagged cord, and he knew what had to be done. Taking a deep breath from Tom's oxygen supply, Jerry crept out of the pocket and walked along Tom's arm. When he reached the cord, he swung on it, hand over hand, until he got to where the trouble was. Using all his mouse strength, he freed the snagged cord, just barely managing to get back to Tom and the oxygen supply as his breath ran out. Once the cord was free, Tom pulled himself and Jerry back to the door of the spaceship in safety. Once inside, the other astronauts gave Tom a big round of applause. They all asked to be introduced to this brave little mouse. Tom explained exactly who Jerry was. Of course, Mission Control had been watching the entire adventure, and soon the whole world knew about the mouse who saved the astrocat from being lost in space forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, the spacecraft has landed. As we await the appearance of Tom, the astrocat, and his brave companion Jerry, the mouse, we cannot help but think of how these two animals have given new meaning to the word French. The world will long remember these two brave space travelers who risked their lives for their country and for each other. And now the door to the craft is open, and leading the other astronauts is Tom with Jerry sitting on his shoulder. What a moment! What a thrill! What a day! Welcome back, Tom and Jerry.
So that was Tom and Jerry in Astro Cat and Mouse, requested by Asher the Elder for 1984. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment, and have a groovy day. And our next book will be the Poppies, or Pablos, and the Paper Route.